Car. He just stole a squad. He's northbound on 51 in the southbound lanes. And
The early hours of the 3rd of May 2025 unfolded like most mornings in the small town of Macon, Illinois. The PV Quick Stop, a modest gas station and convenience store off the main road, had begun receiving its usual flow of early customers, drivers filling up tanks, locals stepping inside for coffee, and commuters passing through on their way toward Decatur. It was routine and calm, until a sudden 911 call disrupted the otherwise quiet morning. Dispatchers received the report that a man was outside the PV Quick Stop waving a machete at gas station patrons. The caller identified the individual as 8-year-old Oscar McCurry of Macon. The nature of the threat immediately prompted urgency. A machete in a public space elevates any disturbance into a potentially deadly encounter, especially when civilians are nearby with no protection and no way of predicting the individual's next move. Deputies from the Macon County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to the scene. Given the seriousness of the situation, an officer from the Decatur Park Police Department also responded. Calls involving edged weapons require controlled, careful approaches. Officers must assess distance, reaction time, and the unpredictability of a suspect who is already brandishing a weapon in public. Their goal is always to contain the person without escalating the danger to bystanders. By the time deputies arrived at the PV Quick Stop, McCurry was still on the property. His behavior had already caused fear among patrons. The presence of a machete can rapidly change a simple disturbance into a public safety emergency. Officers approached strategically, attempting to position themselves in a way that protected civilians and kept clear lines of sight on McCurry. As they arrived, they focused on stabilizing the environment around the gas station. Patrons were directed away from the immediate area, while officers attempted to de-escalate the situation as much as possible without provoking McCurry. But within moments of their arrival, the situation shifted in an unexpected and dangerous direction. In the confusion and rapid movement of the encounter, McCurry gained access to an unoccupied squad car. Whether through an open door or a momentary gap in monitoring, he successfully entered the vehicle. With the keys inside, he immediately drove away from the officers, using the squad car itself as a powerful and unpredictable weapon. Officers now faced a completely different threat, an armed suspect in control of a law enforcement vehicle, capable of causing harm not only with a machete but with a nearly 2-ton vehicle. McCurry drove the squad car in erratic patterns around the immediate area. The danger escalated sharply as officers tracked the vehicle's unpredictable path. In a matter of moments, McCurry crashed the stolen squad car into another squad car on scene, creating a violent collision that further endangered everyone nearby. The impact forced officers to reposition quickly, reassess their tactics, and prepare for whatever came next. After the impact, the squad car door opened and McCurry stepped out. What the officers saw next heightened the threat to a level beyond anything encountered earlier in the call. McCurry was no longer armed with only a machete. He now had a shotgun. The presence of a firearm shifted the situation from dangerous to critical. A shotgun at close range poses immediate lethal risk to officers and civilians. As McCurry emerged from the damaged squad car holding the weapon, the threat became both imminent and unavoidable. Officers were forced to respond to the elevated risk in an effort to protect themselves and the community. Shots were fired at McCurry as he held the shotgun, marking the moment the standoff became an officer-involved shooting. But the situation did not end there. Despite being struck, McCurry did not collapse, surrender, or drop the firearm. Instead, he continued moving, continued interacting with officers, and continued presenting a danger that needed to be carefully managed. What began as a call for a man waving a machete had now escalated into a multi-stage confrontation involving a stolen police vehicle, a crash into another squad car, the appearance of a shotgun, and an exchange of gunfire. The transformation of events happened within minutes. Yet officers were required to continually reassess, reposition, and respond with precision. The confrontation had only reached its midpoint. For the next 20 minutes, officers would continue to follow McCurry, communicate with him, and attempt to resolve the situation safely. The initial threat at the gas station had evolved into a prolonged, tense, and unpredictable encounter, one that would require patience, tactical discipline, and constant communication to prevent further danger. This marked the beginning of a drawn-out standoff in which officers worked steadily toward a peaceful end, even as McCurry remained armed and injured. What started as a 911 call at a small-town convenience store had become one of the most complex incidents Macon County would face in 2025. After the exchange of gunfire near the crashed squad cars, the situation with Oscar McCurry did not conclude as officers might have expected. Despite being struck during the shooting, McCurry remained on his feet. He still possessed the shotgun, and he continued to move away from officers. Injuries that would have incapacitated many individuals did not immediately stop him. This unexpected development required deputies and the responding Decatur Park police officer to shift their tactics from immediate engagement to controlled pursuit and verbal communication. The environment around the PV Quick Stop area had transformed into a dynamic threat zone. Officers had to ensure that no civilians wandered into the area while simultaneously keeping McCurry within sight. Even though shots had already been fired, the goal was now to slow the situation down and guide it toward a safe resolution. Officers followed McCurry while maintaining as much distance as possible, using cover when available, and attempting to reduce the likelihood of further violence. With each step, officers continued speaking to McCurry, attempting to encourage compliance despite his refusal to surrender the shotgun. The standoff extended into a prolonged period, 20 minutes of movement, commands, and constant assessment. During this time, officers balanced the need to prevent McCurry from escaping or threatening others, with the need to avoid escalating the situation into further gunfire. The injuries McCurry sustained during the exchange were monitored from a distance. Officers observed his posture, his grip on the shotgun, and his overall physical stability. The longer the encounter went on, the greater the concern that fatigue or sudden collapse might cause the firearm to discharge accidentally. Every step was measured, and every moment carried uncertainty. The officers maintained a formation that ensured no bystanders were exposed. Roads were monitored and access points around the area controlled. Officers continually communicated with one another, sharing updates about McCurry's position and behavior. The Decatur Park police officer coordinated with Macon County deputies to ensure that everyone had a clear understanding of how the pursuit was unfolding. Despite the intensity of the standoff, officers resisted the temptation to end the situation aggressively. The goal was to give McCurry opportunities to stop, drop the weapon, or indicate a willingness to surrender. For 20 minutes, they followed and negotiated, making conscious efforts to avoid forcing a confrontation unless absolutely necessary. As the pursuit continued, officers maintained readiness for the possibility that McCurry could turn suddenly with the shotgun, attempt to flee into areas where civilians were present, or collapse unexpectedly. These considerations shaped every movement made by the deputies. The length of the standoff demonstrated the difficulty of dealing with an individual who remained armed, mobile, and non-compliant, even after being struck by gunfire. An officer sustained an injury during the earlier collision and subsequent tactical movements. Although the injury required medical attention, the officer was treated and ultimately released from the hospital the same day. The incident underscored how dangerous and unpredictable the situation had become for all involved. Eventually, after 20 minutes of steady pursuit and continued communication, officers found an opportunity to safely take McCurry into custody. The moment presented itself only after careful coordination and continuous monitoring of McCurry's movement and behavior. Once the opportunity arose, deputies acted quickly and decisively, ensuring that he was secured without additional injury to officers or civilians. Once McCurry was disarmed and the immediate threat neutralized, officers shifted into emergency response mode. His injuries required medical care, and paramedics were brought in to transport him to the hospital. Despite the earlier gunfire, McCurry survived and was stabilized for treatment. The priority after his capture was ensuring he received appropriate medical attention before being processed further. With McCurry secured and removed from the scene, officers began preparing the area for investigation. The PV Quick Stop, the crashed squad cars, and the surrounding roads all contained evidence that would need to be documented. From the machete seen earlier to the stolen squad car, from the crash impact to the use of the shotgun, the chain of events represented a complex sequence that investigators would later reconstruct. The 20-minute period during which officers followed and monitored McCurry became a central part of understanding the restraint and tactical decision-making involved. The priority remained consistent throughout the encounter: contain the threat and end the incident as safely as possible. Once McCurry was transported to the hospital, the focus shifted to the formal investigation. Any incident involving an armed individual, the theft of a squad car, a vehicle collision, the presence of a shotgun, and an officer-involved shooting triggers an extensive review. Multiple agencies collaborated to reconstruct the events of the 3rd of May 2025, beginning with the 911 call from the PV Quick Stop. Investigators started by establishing a detailed timeline. They examined the initial report of McCurry waving a machete at gas station patrons. That first act set the entire incident into motion. Witnesses who had been at the PV Quick Stop during the early moments provided statements about McCurry's behavior. Their accounts helped confirm the level of danger present at the very beginning of the encounter. From there, investigators followed the sequence of McCurry entering the unoccupied squad car. The manner in which he accessed and operated the vehicle was reviewed, along with the path he drove and the crash into the second squad car. The impact and resulting damage were photographed and documented. The collision also played a role in the injury sustained by the officer who was treated and released the same day. The next critical component involved the moment McCurry emerged from the crashed vehicle holding a shotgun. The presence of the firearm significantly shaped the officer's response. Investigators assessed the distance between McCurry and officers at the time shots were fired, the trajectory of rounds, and the overall threat level. Bodycam footage played an essential role in confirming how quickly the situation escalated and how officers responded. The investigation into the events of that morning reinforced the unpredictable nature of law enforcement work. A call about a man waving a machete at a gas station had transformed into a multi-layered confrontation involving a stolen police vehicle, a crash, a firearm, and a prolonged standoff. Officers exercised restraint during the 20-minute pursuit, choosing communication whenever possible, while maintaining safety for the public. Ultimately, the case demonstrated the challenges agencies face when individuals escalate threats through unpredictable behavior and access to weapons. The PV Quick Stop incident would remain a point of reference for Macon County law enforcement, serving as an example of rapid escalation, complex threat management, and coordinated response between agencies. The outcome, McCurry in custody, an injured officer recovering, and no civilian casualties, was the result of continuous assessment and careful decision-making under pressure.